What if every time you tried to learn English, you failed, and the frustration made you want to give up? But then, in a quiet royal garden, a family secret appeared that could change the way you see everything. Royal Garden Morning. Imagine this. The air in Copenhagen is fresh, the sun is still shy, and the royal garden feels like a giant secret playground. The roses smell like they've just woken up, and the fountain whispers as if it knows something you don't. It's the kind of morning where you feel that life might be hiding a surprise behind every tree. Our main character, let's call her Anna, walks slowly along the stone path. She isn't rushing anywhere, because in Denmark, mornings aren't a race. They are more like a quiet invitation to breathe. She carries a book, but honestly, she isn't reading it. Her eyes keep wandering to the statues, the leaves, the way the light makes the old castle walls look like they're telling an ancient story. Here's the thing. Your brain loves routines, but it also craves novelty. Science says even the smallest change, like choosing a new walking path, can make your memory sharper and your mood brighter. That's why Anna isn't just walking. She's secretly training her brain, even if she doesn't realize it. And you, by listening to this story slowly in English, are doing the exact same thing. Anna stops near a wooden bench under a giant chestnut tree. The bench looks ordinary, maybe even boring. But boredom is suspicious, isn't it? Often, it hides something deeper. Think about English practice. Repeating the same simple sentences feels boring, until one day you realize your mouth moves more smoothly, and your brain no longer fights every word. Ordinary moments carry quiet miracles. On that morning, Anna felt it too. Something about the stillness of the royal garden seemed alive, as if the air itself wanted to whisper a secret. She didn't know yet that this garden, this bench, and this quiet morning would open the door to a family truth she had never imagined, and that's where our story begins, with calm footsteps, fresh air, and a garden that is not as innocent as it looks. Strange whisper. You know that weird moment when you think someone just called your name, but no one is there? Your brain panics for half a second, then pretends nothing happened. That's exactly what Anna experienced in the royal garden. She was sitting on the bench, letting her thoughts drift like slow clouds. Suddenly, she heard it, a whisper. Soft. Quick. Almost like the garden itself was breathing words into her ear. She looked around. No people, only trees, flowers, and a bird hopping like it had too much coffee. Now, psychology has a funny explanation for this. Our brains are pattern machines. They hate silence. When things are too quiet, the brain creates patterns, even fake voices, just to entertain itself. It's like your nervous system is a bored child shaking the chair until you pay attention. But sometimes, the whisper isn't imagination. Sometimes, it's a clue. Anna leaned forward. She could swear the sound came from under the bench. A faint rustle, then another breath-like murmur. Her heart beat faster, not from fear, but from curiosity. You know that feeling when you're practicing English and suddenly one sentence sounds so natural you shock yourself? That electric what just happened moment. That's what Anna felt in her chest. The whisper didn't repeat, but Anna couldn't unhear it. She bent down, pressing her palm on the cold stone near the bench. The ground smelled of wet leaves, autumn's quiet perfume. And then, her fingers brushed against something rough, something wedged between the wood and stone. A folded paper, yellowed with time. She froze. Who hides a piece of paper under a park bench in the royal garden? This wasn't a tourist trick. This wasn't random. It was intentional, like someone had wanted it to be found, but only by the right person. Anna's eyes widened. The whisper was gone, but it had left her with a mystery. A secret was waiting, and she had just touched the first piece of it. Hidden letter. There it was, a piece of paper, folded so many times it looked like it had survived 100 winters. Anna held it carefully, afraid it might fall apart in her hands. The edges were fragile, yellow like old photographs. Her heart beat faster. Finding a letter in the royal garden? That was not on her morning plan. She unfolded it slowly, as if the paper itself might protest. The handwriting was uneven, shaky, yet elegant in its own way. A mix of Danish and English words filled the page. That was strange already. Why would someone switch between languages in such a personal note? But then again, Denmark is full of quiet bilingual secrets. English slips into conversations like sugar and coffee. The letter began with 3 words, "My dear child." Anna stopped. The words felt heavy, personal. But it wasn't addressed to anyone by name. It was like the writer wanted it to reach anyone who discovered it, and yet, it carried the intimacy of a parent whispering to their son or daughter. Science says that when you read something emotionally charged, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical that makes chocolate irresistible. That's why Anna felt her body lean closer, her breath slower, her eyes pulling toward the words as if the paper itself had gravity. The letter spoke of love. It spoke of regret. It hinted at a choice made many years ago, a choice that changed the life of a family. One sentence stood out like a firework. Sometimes silence is the only way to protect the ones we love. Anna frowned. Silence? Protect? These words carried weight, the kind of weight you don't use unless you're hiding something. Suddenly the whisper she heard earlier didn't feel like imagination. It felt like a warning, or maybe an invitation. She folded the letter back, pressing it against her chest for a moment. Her fingers trembled. She didn't know whose story this was, but she knew one thing. It was connected to her. Somehow, the royal garden had chosen her to read a family's deepest secret, and this was only the beginning. Father's secret past. Anna walked home with the letter hidden inside her coat, as if the autumn wind might steal it away. That night, while her small Copenhagen apartment was wrapped in silence, she read the letter again. And this time, the words hit harder. The letter described a young man, restless, full of dreams, but also full of mistakes. He had once stood inside the very same royal garden, not as a visitor but as someone carrying a heavy secret. This man, the writer revealed, was Anna's father. Think about this. How often do we believe we know our parents completely? We see them cooking, paying bills, repeating the same boring advice. But neuroscience shows our brains simplify people we know well. It's like a shortcut. Dad is just dad. We forget they were once wild, uncertain, even broken. For Anna, this shortcut collapsed. The father she knew, quiet, responsible, steady, suddenly appeared in a different light. The letter spoke of a choice he had made in his youth, a choice involving love, duty, and silence. He had kept a part of himself hidden, not to deceive, but to protect. Her father had fallen in love with someone forbidden, someone the family didn't approve of. And when that love ended, he carried the weight of silence instead of confession. He built a new life, raised a family, but deep inside, he left a part of himself buried in that royal garden. Anna put the letter down, her throat dry. How many times had she looked at her father and seen only the surface? How many smiles hid the unspoken? Suddenly, she understood that the man who taught her how to ride a bike, who fixed her broken toys, had once been a stranger to himself too. The shock wasn't just about her father's past. It was about realizing that even the people closest to us are mysteries we never fully solve, and the mystery was only deepening. Mother's silent choice. The next evening, Anna sat with her mother at the kitchen table. The letter burned quietly in her pocket, like a secret she couldn't keep. The smell of fresh rye bread filled the room, the ordinary comfort of a Danish home. But Anna's heart was far from ordinary. Finally, she asked, "Mom, did you know about Dad's past?" Her mother didn't answer right away. She stirred her tea, the spoon clinking against porcelain, a sound too calm for such a heavy question. Then she sighed, a long, tired sigh that seemed older than her years. "Yes," her mother said softly. "I always knew." And in that moment, Anna realized something. Silence was not ignorance. It was choice. Her mother had carried the weight of this secret every single day, and she had done it without bitterness. Why? To protect the family. To keep the home steady. To let love grow in peace, not in the shadow of the past. Psychologists say relationships often survive not because everything is spoken, but because some things are left unsaid. It's a paradox. Truth matters, but sometimes love needs silence more than words. Anna's mother had chosen silence the way a gardener chooses not to pull every wildflower, because some chaos makes the garden more alive. Anna looked at her mother differently that night. The woman who always seemed quiet, ordinary, predictable, suddenly appeared as the strongest person in the room. Her silence had not been weakness. It had been strength disguised as calm, but there was still a sting. Part of Anna wanted to shout, "Why didn't you tell me? Why keep me in the dark?" Yet another part whispered, "Maybe I would have done the same." Her mother reached across the table, placing her hand over Anna's. "Your father loved you. That was never a secret," she said. And in her eyes, Anna saw both pain and peace. The silence was no longer empty. It was a decision, a shield, and, strangely, a gift. Emotions unfold. Anna lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling as shadows from the streetlight painted shapes across her room. Her mind was a storm. One moment, she felt betrayed. How could her parents keep something so big from her? The next, she felt guilty for even thinking of anger, because deep down, she knew it had all been for love. Emotions are messy. Neuroscience shows they don't come one by one, like polite guests at a dinner party. They crash in together: anger, sadness, relief, confusion, like an uninvited crowd pushing through the same door. That's what Anna's chest felt like: crowded, noisy, impossible to organize. She thought about her father. Every memory she had of him now looked different, as if a hidden filter had been applied. His quiet evenings reading the newspaper, his steady laughter when she told a silly joke, even the way he always tied his shoelaces twice before leaving the house. Suddenly, each detail carried new meaning. Was he distracting himself? Was he remembering? Or was he simply living, like any other man? Then came the tears. Slow at first, then heavy. Tears are strange. They don't only express sadness. They also wash away tension, releasing chemicals that calm the body. So, as the tears rolled down, Anna's breathing softened. The storm inside her chest became quieter. By dawn, she was tired but lighter. She understood something important, knowing the secret hadn't broken her family. It had made it more real. Because real families are not made of perfect stories. They're stitched together with flaws, mistakes, regrets, and love that survives anyway. Her anger didn't vanish. Her sadness didn't disappear. But both emotions stood side by side with a new feeling: understanding. And that understanding was the first step toward forgiveness. Anna realized the letter hadn't been an accident. It had been waiting for her, like the garden itself knew she was ready to carry the truth. Lesson in love. Love is a strange teacher. It doesn't use classrooms, whiteboards, or exams. It teaches through silence, through sacrifice, through secrets that eventually come to light. That was the lesson Anna began to understand, walking again in the royal garden, letter folded neatly in her pocket. She felt different. The statues, the fountains, even the old chestnut tree seemed to look back at her with new eyes. She realized love was not the fairy tale she had grown up imagining. It wasn't always pure honesty. Sometimes it was the strength to hold pain quietly, so someone else could smile freely. Science says human bonds are built less on words and more on shared safety. In other words, you don't need someone to tell you everything. You need to feel they will stand beside you when it matters. That's what her parents had done. Her father had carried silence, her mother had chosen patience, and together, they had protected the family. At first, Anna thought the secret made her family weaker, like a crack in glass. But as she sat on the same wooden bench, she saw it differently. The crack was not the end, it was proof the glass had survived pressure. Families, like glass, don't shine because they're flawless. They shine because they catch the light even through the cracks. Anna whispered aloud, as if the garden could hear. Love is not about telling everything. It's about holding on, even when everything feels broken. And in that whisper, she felt her heart soften. Anger loosened its grip. Forgiveness took its first breath. She didn't excuse the silence, but she understood it. And sometimes, understanding is already half of forgiveness. the royal garden had revealed not just her father's past, but a truth about love itself. It is complicated, imperfect, but still the strongest thing we have. A new bond. Weeks passed, but the letter never left Anna's mind. It was no longer just a secret, it had become a bridge. One evening, she sat with her parents in the living room. No drama, no big speeches. Just the quiet hum of the lamp, the smell of coffee, and the warmth of being together. Anna looked at her father differently now. Not as a perfect figure, not as a stranger, but as a man, flawed, complicated, human. And strangely, this made her love him more. She realized you can't truly respect someone until you see both their scars and their strength. Her mother smiled at her from across the room, a smile that said, "Thank you for understanding." That silent exchange felt louder than any confession. It was the kind of communication that doesn't need words, what psychologists call emotional attunement. Families thrive on it more than on conversations. The bond between them wasn't shiny and fragile like glass anymore. It was heavier, like wood that had been carved, weathered, and polished by time. Imperfect, but unbreakable. Anna returned often to the royal garden, not to look for more secrets, but to remember. The bench was still there, the fountain still whispered, but now they carried a new meaning. What once felt like mystery now felt like home, and here's the final truth she carried. Family is not about perfection, or about knowing every detail. It is about staying, even when the story is messy. It is about love that bends but does not break. So if you've ever felt like giving up, on learning, on connection, on yourself, remember this. Sometimes the hidden parts of the story are the ones that make the bond unshakable. That was the secret the royal garden gave her. And maybe, if you listen closely enough, it will give one to you too.